Hello.
Shalom, Robertson.
Hi,
Nice.
I don't see you.
It's Neely.
Hi, Nili. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, we miss you so much.
Thank you. I missed everyone. It was so hectic. I should say busy. I don't know what I should say. Do you mind doing your videos so I could see you?
I can't right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right now
I
I can't.
understand.
I will later. I'm sorry.
Okay. How is everything by you? How is your family?
Baruch Hashem. Thank you. Baruch Hashem. We're all okay.
Chas Hashem. That's amazing. Baruch Hashem. What are your plans for the summer?
I'm gonna put it on video for a second to see you. Okay. Yeah. Hi. I'm just working. I'm working from home for the
What do
summer.
you do?
I'm an attorney, so I work
What
from.
type?
I do foreclosure litigation, representing banks.
Is there foreclosures now because of COVID? I heard there is no foreclosures.
There is a moratorium. Yes, the banks are not moving, so I'm just working mostly on old cases, and sometimes there are cases against banks. So it's not just foreclosure; it's also like banking litigation, some real estate litigation, but mostly the foreclosure cases.
That's so cool.
Baruch Hashem. So thank God I've had the opportunity to work from home.
That's amazing, right? I think a lot of people will stay working from home now.
Yeah. Yes, they're starting now to open up the office and they're encouraging everyone to come in, but
Under what?
they're encouraging people to come to the office now. But I'm very reluctant. I really don't want to go back on the train and the subway. So for now, as long as they don't force me, I'm not going.
Did you get vaccinated?
Yes.
You did.
Yes.
Was it fine? Did it go well?
Yeah, the vaccination was fine. I was very sick for one day with the second shot. But it was just one day. It was fine. Did you get?
Sick?
Yeah, one day it was like fever and a lot of body ache, and I said, thank God I didn't get COVID, because just like having had that one day, it's very tough.
Wow.
Yeah. You feel comfortable getting the vaccine, or
I hear so many confusing things,
really?
Like one says one thing, the other one says the other thing.
Have you heard any people with bad experiences?
Well, there is plenty of people who tell their story. Hi, Erika. You're muted.
Okay.
So, Hashem Yazor.
Hashem Yazor.
It's such a weird year.
Yes, I know.
Everything was so confusing. So, I don't know.
I know.
You should be able to see clarity.
Amen. 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 Yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah.
But Baruch Hashem. But I got to join your classes and learn from you. So that's
that was one thing that we got out of it was classes.
Yes, so I've learned a lot more. And Baruch Hashem. So that's one thing. I guess maybe Hashem wants us all to become closer to him.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you, Erika?
Hi, thank you very much. So good to see you, finally. Long time.
And every week I said, okay, this week we're going to start. This week I'm going to start. And boom, something else would come up.
No, I thought maybe you started like, like
Live.
actual classes. Yeah, that's what I thought. And then I asked around. They said no.
I did have kalot, and that took a
Okay.
lot of my time. I had a few kalot that I had to teach.
Yeah.
So that really took a lot of my time. During COVID, I didn't have much.
Yeah. Okay, that's
So,
good. Kalot is good.
no, Hashem.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, no, Hashem.
Ah, so I guess she was saying it was challenging and whatever, but at the same time, I think there are a lot of miracles. Things happen that like even with marriages, I noticed many people that if people gave up on them getting married, they just got married this year.
Amazing,
Yeah.
because they were bored at home.
Yeah.
So getting married was better than, life was too busy before. They didn't have
Yeah.
time for this.
Yeah, true.
They didn't have time to date. They were too entertained. There was so much happening, and it was just quiet.
I think also many people they realize that till you don't have this year maybe they understood what is a family. Family is really to have your partner in life. That's family. I think that's also kind of was a message for many people that you need a partner in life. So I don't know. Yeah, weird.
It's so clear that God is trying to talk to us very loud, and we're so far that we can't even hear it. Yeah.
Shalom, Rebitza.
Hey, how are you?
Nice seeing you.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry I interrupt you.
Okay. So yeah, Bezrat Hashem. Where are my glasses? Hi, Lana. How are you? So good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, Lana. So I have Ilana and Eliana. Cute. And Natalie, I'm not sure which Natalie it is. And hi, Rebecca.
Babayan, Natalie Babayan.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Sorry, I turned my video off because I'm like cooking and I don't want to be distracting.
That's fine. And hi, Leah. And hi, Rebecca.
Shalom, Mazal Tov on your daughter's children. So happy for you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Rosh
you.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov u'Mevorach. Okay, so it's 8:30. We're going to start on time. I'm not going to review from the past, but I will continue from what we were up to because I had a bookmark. So today's topic, watch the content of what you say. Choose your words. So it's like this. It is very easy for us to lash out on our spouse, to say things the way we wouldn't talk to anyone else. Not the way we would talk to our children, our teenage children. We count the words we say, how much we breathe between the words, not to say the wrong things, because otherwise they might leave the house and slam the door and not pick up the phone on you, right? But somehow with our spouse, we are not so scared. And things just come out. We feel so comfortable, so safe, so secure that we just, in Spanish they say, no tiene pelos en la lengua, in the Argentinians say, that he has no, or she has no hairs on her tongue, meaning everything slips out. There is no stoppers. So that's very common to do that with our spouse. So people who have zero issue of self-confidence, who have full self-esteem and complete security with each other, that they know they love each other so, so much, that even if the wife would tell her husband, you liar, he's going to laugh because he knows she doesn't mean it. That's rare. That's rare. It is obviously very nice if people are holding there, but I must say that it's not the most common thing for a couple to have so much self-confidence that whatever you tell them doesn't make them shake a little bit or feel that the ground is shaking under them, or that the spouse loves them so blindly that even if they told them something not so nice, yeah, for sure they don't mean it. So that's a mistake that many people do in their marriages, because when we say something, we can't take it back. We can take it back, and it can make such a bad, such a sad impression on the other one, and that's the impression that stays on us, that this is how she feels about me, this is the way he sees me. And we shake the security of our spouse, we shake their self-esteem, and we shake the security of our bond, of our partnership. So you really don't think I look good? Let's say the husband makes a joke, oh, you're ugly or whatever. So you really think I'm not pretty? And from then on, a person doesn't see his own beauty anymore. And it could be small things and it could be big things. But the idea is that we really have to be so careful with the words we use. Like says Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei, Mavet v'chaim biyad halashon. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So this is definitely applies to the life of our marriage. An article for a newspaper or magazine or letter to someone you consider very important requires choosing your words carefully. Let's say, when, you know what, it was funny, I was telling my husband today, okay, so I decided to give the class, I pushed myself, I said, that's it, I'm starting. What's the big deal? But then today, I had to yesterday ask the sponsor, then answer the person, then ask how should I write, then, and everything you have to look which words and clean it up and erase it and make look at it again, besides for preparing the class. Just the way I worded the text that I was going to send. Why? Because it's important to me, right? If we would think the same way about the words we are going to present to the person that's the most important in our life, how much better things would be. Not only that, not only because he is important to me or she is important to me, but because whatever the relationship I will have with this person, it's going to come back to me. So if I make this person feel comfortable with me, I will get the comfort back from that relationship. So obviously, if you're going to send an article to a newspaper, if you're applying for something, for a scholarship, something, how careful you write your essays, and you ask someone to check it and go over it. When we talk to our spouse, that's our life. That's really our life. That's what we're stuck with, that's our children, etc. My husband yesterday gave a class to ladies. He had a few sessions to the men on chinuch, raising children, and then they asked him to do a few classes for the ladies as well. So I asked him what you spoke about, and he said, really, I tried to emphasize that the most important part of raising children is the shalom bayit between husband and wife. That's the most important recipe for good children. When there is love and happiness and peace between the husband and the wife, then the children are almost guaranteed to come out good. So many people invest in their children, and in order to defend their children, they may put down their spouse. They don't realize that by doing that, they're really destroying their children and shaking their entire being. They're destroying their future relationships and so on. So this is so important. Like Shlomo says, Mavet v'chaim biyad halashon. Death and life is in the hands of the tongue. Your words to your spouse can create feelings of joy, love, closeness, gratitude, and maybe even a radiant bliss. Your words to your spouse can console, can comfort, inspire, motivate, elevate, but other words can create feelings of pain, distress, and anger. How many times a woman would tell me, my husband didn't say anything, but just because I knew he was upset, I couldn't work, I couldn't think, I couldn't be happy. And then when they finally spoke, she realized it wasn't so bad and she just made herself miserable. But see how much just thinking that my spouse is not happy with me, it can ruin my day. Is that what we want to do to each other? If my spouse is not happy, he's not going to do his work properly. He's not going to be happy. So when he comes back home, I'll have an unhappy spouse, and so on. So it's something we really have to count our words and value them, give a lot of value to every word we say, and ask ourselves, is this really what I want to say? Is this really what I want to create? Sometimes it's very hard for us to be very nice. So sometimes we're very hurt. Let's say you asked your husband to bring you a cup of water and he said no, and then he asks you, okay, I'm giving a stupid example. And you really feel like saying, excuse me, I just asked you an hour ago and you told me, why, get up and get it for yourself. And now you're asking me, no, I don't want to do it for you. If we say that, what do we gain? What do we gain? We gain to please our Yetzer Hara. We have the Yetzer Hara sitting here, and if we say that, we really please our Yetzer Hara. But instead, if we would say, oh, I really would love to do it for you, but it's hard for me right now. I wish I could, but I can't. Without saying, you see, you said the same thing. You didn't explain why you can't. You can't because you're upset. But you didn't say something that will create a fight. So I'm not saying crush yourself, put yourself down. I'm not saying that. If you can't be nice, at least don't be not nice. That's something we have to remember. You can't be nice. Sometimes it's understood. But don't be nasty, because you don't want to be nasty ever. You know, like says Shlomo Melech, Bechol et yubgadecha levanim, v'shemen al roshcha lo yechesar. At all times, Your clothes should be clean, should be white. Don't be caught with dirty hands. Don't be caught nasty. You know, imagine if you go to a marriage counselor and you're supposed to relate the fight you had yesterday. You know how many people are embarrassed to repeat what they said? They're very embarrassed to repeat what they said. So if you're embarrassed to repeat what you said, even though you're going to say your whole side of the story, you're going to say the whole side of the story. And you're still embarrassed to say it. What does that mean? But it was embarrassing what you said. Very simply, it was embarrassing. So if it's embarrassing, why would you say it? If it's something you would be embarrassed to repeat, maybe you shouldn't say it. I'm reading from the book now. I once saw a sign on someone's refrigerator. Be careful of the words you say. Keep them soft and sweet. You'll never know from day to day which ones you will have to eat. Yeah, this is, we eat our words. They come back to us. The thought went through my mind that one's refrigerator is the perfect place to keep this reminder. Just as we need to be
Gonna get a
careful.
ride, we're gonna take him back.
Can everyone mute, please?
Should I eat?
Mute everyone. Okay. So this is really a good place to put that reminder. Just like we have to be careful with what we put inside our mouth. Kashrut, diet, cleanliness, etc. We have to be careful in what comes out of our mouth. So just like we're going to be careful in what we put inside because of the health of our neshama and our body, we're going to be careful what we take out for the health of our marriage. Every statement you make can be phrased in many ways. Choose positive ways toward things. Marriage is a great opportunity to learn tact. Tact is when you say your position in a way that is sensitive to the feelings of the person to whom you're talking. Speaking without tact can be a violation of the Torah prohibition against ona'at dvarim. So we spoke about ona'at dvarim earlier, that it's a prohibition from the Torah to hurt someone with words. Saying words that can make the other person hurt, that is a prohibition from the Torah. So for example, instead of saying that's ridiculous, we could say, I can see some difficulties with that. Instead of saying, oh, give me one moment, please. I'm sorry, just 1 second. I'm sorry. Instead of saying, that's totally stupid, you can compare it with, let's look at this in another way. Instead of saying, how could anyone in the right mind think that? You could say, I think that another position has its merits. You're totally wrong. It seems to me to be, what? This seems to me to be the right way. You say something else and say, that seems to me right. Basically not what you're saying. Instead of saying only an idiot would say that, we could say, I think that if we both took a closer look at this, we might agree that da da da. You're dumb for not thinking. How could you not think? I don't get it. How could you not think? Why didn't you know? All these things just really hurt the other person, and we really should find other words to say it. So it's very interesting. As I told you when we started the class tonight, for some reason, we feel more safe and comfortable with our spouse than with any other person in the world. There are things we wouldn't talk like that to our cleaning lady. We wouldn't talk like that to the cashier in the supermarket. And for some reason, we talk like that to our spouse. Why? This is the person that's dearest to me. It's the person I love the most. It's the person that his happiness will affect my happiness the most. So why do I do that to him / to myself? And the answer is Yetzer Hara. That's it. It's really stupidity and Yetzer Hara that we do that. It's a very common one. It's a very normal one. We all do it. But the fact that we do it doesn't mean that we could say to ourselves, maybe it's time to start being more careful. When your spouse doesn't know something, if you yourself know something that your spouse doesn't know, feel the joy for the opportunity to do chesed, to share knowledge and information. If your spouse didn't understand you, it would be tactful to say, I must have not expressed myself clearly. Let me explain again. Let me explain what I mean. Do everything you can not to embarrass your spouse or put him or her on the spot. There is no need to point out every single error and mistake. If a mistake is likely to be repeated or needs to be corrected, it is important to point it out, but even then, do it with fineness. In many situations, the mistake is a one-time error, and there is absolutely no reason to point it out. Sometimes we make a mistake and it was a one-time thing. We don't need to point it out. Let it go. Sometimes it's something that you really are going to do a favor to your spouse if you're going to correct him. Let's say he uses the wrong word. He uses an expression the wrong way. I remember once someone told me that he would tell a joke and everyone would laugh so much, and he would just repeat the joke because he saw that so everyone enjoys it so much, but he really didn't understand why the joke was so good until someone explained to him how filthy the joke was, and he didn't know. He never got it. Okay, so imagine your spouse says something that he doesn't know what he's saying or what it really means. So explaining it to them would be a chesed, because you're going to prevent him from being embarrassed in the future. But even then, it needs to be done with tact, with fineness, without putting down. And yes, we could find ways. How do we find ways? Think. If this was my boss that I admire and respect, how would I say that to him? We would know how to say it nicely, right? So that's what we have to consider. So don't criticize small and irrelevant mistakes unless you know that your husband and wife will appreciate it. You know, us that we come from different countries, we have a big accent issue. And many times we use words wrongly. Sometimes you feel like correcting. I mean, I tell my kids always to please correct me and point out to me when I pronounce things very wrong. You know, if it's just a funny accent is one thing, but sometimes I pronounce things and it sounds like a different word. I beg them to ask me and to explain to me, and they try, but what can I do? It stays with the same wrong accent. So to nudge it again and again and again, sometimes there is no point. You know, I will share with you. You know who gave me a lot of confidence to speak? When I saw Rebbetzin Young Rise in person. I saw her, and she was much shorter than me. And she had a lisp, and she had an accent, and nothing stopped her. And I said, hey, Abigail, so being short doesn't mean you cannot speak. You know, so, and having an accent, okay, so you have an accent, and your vocabulary is not the best. Okay, so what? She was really a big encouragement for me when I saw her live, how she looks and how, because she was so impressive, even though she had what we would call chesronot, lackings, right? So the same thing with her spouses. The fact that they have a lacking, the fact that they have an accent, the fact that they use the wrong joke at sometimes, or they have corny jokes, do we really have to correct them? Do we really have to crush and put down constantly? Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe you don't gain anything from it. And you just, if before he would be laughing at funny jokes, corny jokes, now he doesn't laugh anymore. Did you gain anything? Maybe not. Another important thing, don't mumble comments under your breath that you know you shouldn't say. So if there is something you shouldn't say, don't mumble it either, because it's sometimes worse. Don't say what you're not saying. For example, I'm not even going to say what I'm thinking right now. Don't say it. If it's not nice to say, don't say that you're not saying it. Don't say, I'm not your mother and I shouldn't be telling you this. All these things are insults, and we don't gain anything from them. Someone very wise said once, he was older and all his children, grandchildren loved being around him. And they asked him, you know, how come everyone loves being around you? And he said, don't say everything that comes to your mind, he said. In contrast, someone who got divorced responded to my question about personal qualities or patterns that led to the divorce. He said, oh, I believe that it's very important to say everything I feel and what I think. So he ended up being divorced. So the person that his belief was, don't say everything that comes to your mind, he was surrounded by his children and grandchildren, and everyone enjoyed his company. And the one that was so straight and honest and needed to say the truth, what he thought at all times, not his wife, not his children, no one wanted to be around him. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing we have to avoid is bringing others into our marriage as a proof. Yeah, everyone thinks you're slow. Yeah, even our children always complain about you. Your sons can't stand what you do, and so on. We should not. Oh yeah, your boss told me that he has to have patience with you. Anything that you bring from outside, your friends, you're this, you're that. No one wants to be judged by someone else. You want to tell me you don't like something about me? Tell me you don't like it, but you don't need to bring proofs from your friends or from your siblings or from my siblings or from no one, or from our children. That's very, very hurtful. And this is mamash hona'at dvarim and involves lashon hara and many other things that are not permissible. So I told you before about the fact that some people are embarrassed to tell the therapist what they said, what they themselves said. So there was one couple that went to the therapist and they were very embarrassed to tell everything that they had said during the fight. It was just too embarrassing. So the therapist said, okay, you know what? I have an idea for you. From now on, your homework is, they had a weekly appointment with the marriage counselor, with the therapist. The therapist told them, okay, we'll do this. Your homework is that anytime one says to the other, let's say Avram tells Sarah something not nice, so Sarah has to write it down word by word. And if Sarah tells Avram something not nice, Avram has to write it word by word. And they both agreed to the homework. And she said, okay, next week, or he said, next week when you come back to me, we'll go over the language and we see what can be corrected and how it should be said differently. Because remember, they were very embarrassed to go over what they had said during the fight because it was so ugly. So what happened? Let's say Sarah would be yelling at Avram and he had to write it down. So he'd say, wait, slow down. I can't write so quickly. Can you, what did you just say? I missed that word. So it turned into a little bit of, it became more relaxing. It became more of a joke. And then they were a little more careful because she's writing it down, he's writing it down. So things became automatically much better. Next time when they went to the therapist, so obviously there was a big improvement because they were embarrassed that this should be on paper. So the fight was there. It was a much, much more diluted. So now the therapist said, okay, from now on, you're allowed to make corrections on the paper. So let's say you told your husband, you're so mean, I can't believe you did this to me. You always do that. And it's not true, he doesn't always do that. So then you could make corrections and you could fix it and think, how could you say, again, remember, we have to be able to express ourselves. We have to talk and say, I'm hurt. We can't swallow things because then it's not shalom bayit. The question is how to say it in a way that we don't hurt the other one. You have to be able to express how you feel, but that does not give us permission to hurt the other one as we are expressing ourselves. So after it was on paper, they were allowed to make corrections, to write down how they could have said it differently. So of course, after the fact, when you're not angry anymore, etc., it's much easier. And that's how they learned to do it. But the funny part was that the biggest part of the therapy in this situation was that they had to write it down and tell each other, slow down, I can't write so quickly. And that really helped tons. So that by itself could be a solution to the fight. But of course, you need to have both partners who agree to this game, in quotes. So for people that their shalom bayit is really a goal for both of them. See, for some people, they would like to have shalom bayit, but zero effort on their part because they don't even believe that it has to do anything to do with them. It's only the other side that's the problem. And all our problems is just him, or he says it's just her. So that's a lot more difficult. But if you can get to an agreement with your spouse that shalom bayit is really important for both of you. So something like this could work, and it doesn't take long. It wouldn't take more than 2-3 weeks for things to completely change. Completely change. Because if you do this homework of writing it down, what each other says, not what you said, it really is fantastic. And that really, seeing your words transcribed is a great reminder of the Mishnah of Pirkei Avot, which says that all of our deeds and words are written in the eternal book. Politicians and diplomats are much more careful with what they say when the reporters are present. So here, this is the continuation. My spouse and I became each other's reporters. We agreed to have a weekly meetings together to discuss the written highlights of the week. The caustic barbs ended. Our meetings were transformed into conversations between a young couple who cares deeply for each other. The most thrilling report was when I quoted my spouse as saying, I think you're a super wonderful person, and I feel fortunate to be married to you. So that's because they both really wanted, and they were both willing to work on it and do it right. You know, when we just read about the politicians, when we think about our past presidents, I think many would agree that his entire loss, the only reason why he lost was because he spoke in ways without tact. Because most people agree that he was amazing. So why people didn't like him? Even people who liked what he didn't like the way he spoke. And that's why he lost. I think so. I'm sure not everyone agrees with me. But probably everyone agrees with me that he was not careful with the way he spoke. And because of that, he lost, and not only he lost, a lot of the people who wanted him to be the president again lost because of that too. So that is the same thing as in Shalom Bayit. When one of the partners, the husband or the wife, loses because they don't speak nicely, everyone loses. Just like in our case, the country lost. In the Shalom Bayit case, the children lose, the grandchildren lose. And it's a very, very big loss that sometimes it's very hard to replace. Okay, so we're going to stop here. And we're going to continue Be'ezrat Hashem, hopefully next week. Any questions or comments? Okay, so it was good to see you. Thank you for joining. And
Thank you.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you so much.
I pray.
Thank you, Rebecca. Chodesh Tov. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Rebecca.
Chodesh Tov. Thank you very much. Very information. Thank you.
Rebecca.
Thank you. Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov u'Mevorach. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.